Good evening. It's our last house HSM of the semester. I'm so glad that you guys are joining us at all of these houses across Northern Kentucky. Maybe some of you are enjoying NCAA basketball, and others of you might just be eating and maybe making fun of basketball if you don't like sports. I don't know what you're doing. But I do want to make a quick announcement before we get started. Next week, we will not be meeting because of Easter. We're going to celebrate, and we're going to celebrate by just letting you guys spend a ton of time with your family throughout the weekend, but also on Sunday night. Then the week following Easter, so we're talking about April 8th, which is a Sunday night, we as HSM will be going to Laser Craze in Erlanger off of Donaldson Road. Please go to that. It's going to be a ton of fun. We encourage you to bring a friend. That's a great night to just get them started in that routine of coming and hanging out with all of us from HSM. It costs $15. We'd like for you to sign up ahead of time just so we can have a head count, but you don't have to bring your money until the night of. So, just to recap real quick, next week we do not have HSM. If you show up at your campus, you're going to be by yourself, locked out of a church in the cold, so don't do that. Then the week following, April 8th, we are meeting at Laser Craze at 6 p.m. Bring your $15 and as many friends as you can get to come with you. We look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be an awesome time. So much fun. So the time has come. Tonight is the night. We want you to share your story with the rest of your group. We've been talking about this My Story idea for the past 3 months at House HSM. We started off with Aaron and then Travis and now me. And hopefully your leaders have all shared their stories, and maybe even some of you have shared your stories as well. But the goal for tonight is that you start to practice sharing the story amongst your group so that it can prepare you to share your story outside of these walls, outside of church, amongst people that don't know Jesus. And we're going to talk tonight. I'm going to talk tonight about why it is important for us to share our story. But you might be nervous right now. You might be scared or unwilling to share your story. But I want you to know that no matter what you think about your story, God's plan is perfect. Your story is perfect because it is a part of God's plan. He created you and prepared you to do something amazing. And so we can't just say that our story is boring, because the truth is that it's not. God created us each and individually. He created us to be unique. We are all different from one another, which means we are not boring. Unique is not boring. So don't be scared of that story. God doesn't make mistakes. He's never made a mistake, and your story isn't a mistake either. And so tonight we're going to look through a story in the Bible that you've probably heard a couple times, but I hope we look at it in a different way that might make you think a little bit. This is Luke 19, verse 1. It says, Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. Just think about this picture for a minute. You've got this insane crowd of people pushing on Jesus. It's claustrophobic, right? Jesus can probably barely walk through the crowd. And all of a sudden you're in the crowd and you see this little dude, this tiny little creature trying to get through the crowd. He's probably kicking people in the ankles. He's probably shoving. He's probably biting them in the ankles. He's so short, but he's trying his hardest to see Jesus. And it just makes me ask the question, well, why? Like, why does Zacchaeus need to see Jesus? And we're going to explore that tonight, and I'm excited to talk about it. But just think about this for a second, right? Zacchaeus is a tax collector. Everybody in that area knows who he is. They all know that he has stolen money from them and their friends and their family. They don't like him. And so when they see this little guy so desperate to try to climb a tree, I can't imagine the embarrassment that Zacchaeus must have felt. They all knew who he was, so he climbs up in that tree, and I guarantee you that people were making fun of him, laughing at this little dude, this insignificant tax collector, right? They already hated him, and seeing him up in that tree probably gave them a little bit of selfish joy. But what's fascinating is that it didn't matter to Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus pushed through that crowd. He pushed through people's thoughts and comments and laughter towards him. He didn't care. His goal was to see Jesus, and he wasn't going to let anything get in the way of that goal. So once again, it asks that question, why did Zacchaeus have to see Jesus? Why was he so desperate just to get a glimpse of our Savior? Why would he do that? And there's a couple of things. First of all, Zacchaeus wouldn't have been in that tree if it wasn't for Jesus. Zacchaeus wouldn't have been in that tree if it wasn't for Jesus' ministry. Over the last 3 years, Jesus' 3-year ministry, going around talking to people about love and forgiveness, healing people, making people that felt like they were insignificant, making them feel significant. Zacchaeus wouldn't have been in that tree if it wasn't for Jesus. And then the second thing, Zacchaeus wouldn't have been in that tree if others wouldn't have been willing to share their stories. I'm not sure what story that Zacchaeus heard, but Zacchaeus had heard that Jesus was coming. He had heard that Jesus was something worth seeing. Jesus was something to go to. He had to see Jesus no matter what, which means somebody was telling him that he could not miss out on Jesus. Someone was sharing their story with Zacchaeus about how incredible Jesus was. And if Jesus ever came, you had to be there. Maybe Zacchaeus knew someone who suffered with leprosy their entire life. And one day Jesus touched an untouchable and gave them healing, and it changed their life forever. Or maybe Zacchaeus knew one of the 5,000 people that was fed by just a few loaves of bread and a couple fish. And they told Zacchaeus this amazing story about how God, Jesus, provided for them. Or maybe every single day when Zacchaeus would walk to work, he walked by the same exact blind beggar. And one day that beggar was just no longer there. And later Zacchaeus found out that Jesus had given him sight, but had also given him a new life. Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus because he had first heard about Jesus. Zacchaeus had heard about Jesus, making him want to be a part of this amazing thing that Jesus was doing. It says this, it says, when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Zacchaeus was in that tree because someone had told him about Jesus. Zacchaeus was in that tree because someone had told him about how Jesus had changed their life. And now if he ever got the chance to see Jesus or be a part of what Jesus was doing, he could not miss out on it. In that story, whatever story it was that led Zacchaeus to this moment, to being in that tree, it changed Zacchaeus' life forever. This intersection that we get to read about thousands of years later where Zacchaeus met Jesus, it only happened because somebody shared their story. Zacchaeus' life was only changed because somebody was willing to say something about how Jesus changed their life. And so what I want you guys to understand tonight is that your story has the potential to change someone else's life. You might not think it will. You might think that your story is insignificant, but I'm here to tell you right now that it's not. Your story, just like all of our stories, are unique and they are perfect because they are a part of God's plans. So don't be scared. Don't be scared. So tonight, as you guys go to your group, what's your story? What is your story? But also, whose life could be changed simply because you were willing to share about how Jesus changed your life?